Almost 90 years later, people are still asking the same question. What really happened to Amelia Earhart? Was it simply a tragic accident? Did she run out of fuel? Did she miss the island? Or could something else have happened to the woman who had spent her entire life refusing to accept the limits placed on her? In today's story, we're going to go back to the very beginning. We'll discover the girl Amelia was before she became famous, the woman who changed the history of aviation, the dreams that took her across oceans, and the final journey that turned her into one of the greatest mysteries of the 20th century. So stay with me until the end. Because the story of Amelia Earhart isn't only about a woman who disappeared. It's about a woman who spent her entire life chasing the horizon, until one day, the horizon was all that remained. Amelia Mary Earhart was born on July 24, 1897, in Atchison, Kansas. Long before the world knew her name, she was simply a little girl growing up in the American Midwest. But even as a child, Amelia seemed to have a different kind of curiosity. She liked exploring. She liked climbing trees. She liked doing things that were not necessarily considered appropriate for a girl at the time. And perhaps that was one of the first clues about the woman she would eventually become. Amelia was not interested in staying inside the boundaries other people created for her. When she was a teenager, she even created a scrapbook filled with newspaper clippings about women working in professions traditionally dominated by men. Women doctors, women lawyers, women engineers, women doing things that society had once considered impossible. It may seem like a small detail now, but perhaps Amelia was already imagining the kind of woman she wanted to become. Someone who would not simply accept the life that had been planned for her. Her fascination with aviation came later. In 1920, while visiting California, Amelia had her first airplane ride. It lasted only a few minutes, but those few minutes changed everything. She was not flying the airplane. She was only a passenger. Yet when the aircraft lifted into the sky, something inside her changed. She later remembered that she knew almost immediately that she wanted to learn how to fly. And learning to fly would not be easy. There were few female pilots. Flying was expensive, and airplanes were still dangerous machines. But Amelia found a way. She worked. She saved money. She took flying lessons from a woman named Netta Snook. And slowly, Amelia began building a life around the sky. In 1921, she made her first solo flight. The following year, she bought her first airplane. It was a bright yellow Kinner Airster. She nicknamed it the Canary. And before long, Amelia began setting records. But there was something more important happening. She was becoming proof. Proof that women could fly. Proof that women could take risks. Proof that a woman could look at something the world considered too dangerous and say, "I want to do it." In 1928, Amelia received a telephone call that would change her life. She was invited to join a transatlantic flight. The airplane was called the Friendship. The pilots were Wilmer Stoltz and Lou Gordon. Amelia was going to cross the Atlantic Ocean, but there was one important detail. She was not the pilot. She was a passenger. The flight was still historic. When they landed in Wales, Amelia became the first woman to cross the Atlantic by air. The world was fascinated by her. Newspapers published her photograph. People wanted to hear her speak. She became famous almost overnight, but Amelia wasn't completely satisfied. She later said that she had been treated more like a passenger than an aviator, and she knew what she wanted. She wanted to cross the Atlantic herself. Alone. 4 years later, she got her chance. On May 20th, 1932, Amelia took off from Newfoundland. She was alone in the cockpit. Below her was the Atlantic Ocean. There was no second pilot to take over. No one else could fly the airplane if she became exhausted. She faced strong winds, mechanical problems, ice, fatigue, and uncertainty. But she continued. Hours passed. Then more hours. And finally, Amelia landed in Northern Ireland. She had done it. She was the first woman to fly solo and non-stop across the Atlantic. This time, nobody could call her a passenger. She had flown across an ocean alone. Amelia became an international celebrity. But she didn't seem interested in simply becoming famous. She wanted to keep flying. She wanted to encourage other women. She wanted to show them that the sky wasn't reserved for men. She wrote books. She gave lectures. She broke more records. And she became involved with organizations that supported women in aviation. Her life was becoming bigger than aviation itself. She was becoming a symbol of independence. And then there was George Putnam. George was a publisher and publicist who became deeply involved in Amelia's career. He helped organize publicity for her flights. He understood how powerful her story could be. The two became close, and eventually, their relationship became romantic. In 1931, Amelia married George. But she did something unusual before the marriage. She made it clear that she did not want to lose herself inside the relationship. She wanted to remain independent. She wanted to keep her own name. She wanted to continue flying. And she wanted the marriage to be based on traveled an enormous distance. By June 29th, they had reached New Guinea. They had flown approximately 22,000 miles. Only about 7,000 remained. The finish line was beginning to look real. After everything Amelia had overcome, the dream seemed almost within reach. But the next flight would be one of the most difficult. To Howland Island, 2,556 miles across the Pacific. Howland Island was tiny, just a small strip of land in a gigantic ocean. It was the kind of place that could disappear from view, even when you were looking directly toward it. There were no satellites, no GPS, no modern navigation systems. Amelia and Fred would have to calculate their position carefully, and they would have to find that tiny island before their fuel ran out. The United States Coast Guard cutter Itasca had been sent to Howland Island to assist them. The ship was waiting. The island was waiting. Amelia's airplane was coming. Everything was ready. At least, it seemed that way. But communication became complicated. The radio transmissions were not as reliable as everyone wanted. The Itasca could hear Amelia. Amelia could transmit. But establishing the kind of clear two-way communication they needed proved difficult. And the farther Amelia flew, the more important every message became. On July 2nd, 1937, Amelia and Fred took off from Leia. The airplane was loaded with fuel. The route was planned. The destination was Howland Island. They flew into the Pacific. At first, everything seemed normal. The Itasca waited. Hours passed. Then Amelia began transmitting. She was getting closer, but she could not see the island. The ocean below looked the same in every direction. Blue water, blue sky, nothing else. She needed to find a tiny piece of land in all of that emptiness, and the fuel was disappearing. The crew aboard the Itasca tried to help. They sent signals. They listened. They watched the horizon. But Amelia still couldn't find Howland. At one point, she reported that they were flying north and south. They were searching, but searching was not enough. They needed to see the island, and Amelia couldn't. The situation became increasingly desperate. The airplane had been in the air for hours. Fuel was limited. Communication was imperfect, and the island was still missing from the horizon. Then came the final messages. At approximately 8:43 in the morning, Amelia transmitted her position. She said they were running north and south. The Itasca received the message, but after that, silence. The voice disappeared. The airplane disappeared. And Amelia Earhart was gone. Imagine being on that ship. You know that a famous woman is somewhere in the sky above you. You know she is searching for you. You know she is running out of fuel. And suddenly, you can no longer hear her. At first, there must have been hope. Maybe she had landed somewhere. Maybe the radio had failed. Maybe she had flown beyond the range of the ship. But as the hours passed, hope became fear. The search began. Ships spread across the Pacific. Aircraft searched from above. The United States government committed enormous resources to finding Amelia. People searched the ocean for days, but nothing. No airplane. No confirmed wreckage. No Amelia. No Fred. Eventually, the search was called off. Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan were declared lost. But Amelia's story became something much larger than a missing airplane. It became a mystery. People began asking questions. What happened during those final hours? Did Amelia simply fail to find Howland Island? Did she run out of fuel? Did the airplane crash into the ocean? Could they have landed somewhere else? Over the decades, theories multiplied. Some theories focused on navigation, others focused on radio problems. Some suggested that Amelia and Fred might have landed on an island called Nikumaroro. Other theories went much further, suggesting espionage, secret missions, or we simply don't know. And perhaps that is what makes her story so human. We know how she lived. We know what she accomplished. But we don't know what she felt during those final moments. Somewhere above the Pacific, a woman who had spent her life proving that the impossible could be done was searching for one tiny island. She never found it, but she left something behind. A story, a dream, and the memory of a woman who refused to live according to the limits of her time. Amelia Earhart disappeared from the sky, but she never disappeared from history. And maybe that is the part of her story we should remember most. Not simply that she vanished, but that she spent her life refusing to stay grounded. She looked at the sky and chose to enter it. If you enjoyed this story, stay with us for the next one. There are still stories of extraordinary people, forgotten lives, mysterious disappearances, and moments in history that deserve to be remembered. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.